many crew were taken hostage by Somali pirates last year? The answer was 533.
Thanks so much. That's right, 33 international ships with crews totaling 533 people have been taken hostage by the Somali pirates last year. That's around double the number taken the previous year, so the problem's growing. You're watching The Right Stuff, of course. We're live on 5 this Wednesday morning with Larry Turner, Craig Revel-Horde and Steve Furst. In a little while, Steve's going to take us through the rest of today's headlines, but first, I wonder, should we be doing more to secure the release of the British couple held for ransom by the Somalis? You can ping us an email with your thoughts. rightstuff@5.tv is the address. What should we be doing? Rachel and Paul Chandler, well, they rarely get a mention in the papers, despite being held for 3 long months. There's not a word about them in today's press. The Kent couple, as you probably know, was sailing their yacht around the world when taken hostage in October. They've been held separately from one another pretty much ever since. A new video of the couple emerged at the weekend showing Rachel and Paul both looking frail and begging for help. And Rachel telling the cameras they've been badly treated and the fact they're unable to pay the ransom demand themselves, estimated to be £1.9 million. That was when it was the last time we heard from the Somalis. Now, the Foreign Office says it's working to help the Chandlers, but refuses to pay any ransom because our government believes doing so would only encourage more kidnappings. But, you know, France and Spain, they've both paid ransoms to secure the release of their citizens. The French paid £1 million to secure the release of 30 people taken captive on a luxury boat. That's just over a year ago. Typically, the pirates only take container ships because they invariably get a large ransom from the cash-rich shipping firms who operate them. And I wasn't really aware of this in any detail, but a private anti-piracy group called the Merchant Maritime Warfare Centre says it put together a deal, a £100,000 deal, to secure the Chandlers' release last year, but that deal was blocked by our government. Should we be paying any money, Larry?
I don't think the government should be paying any money, but I think that certainly if this deal really was scuppered by the government, that's appalling. I mean, it sounds very naive, but why is there a Somalian government? And if not,
really,
well,
no.
I mean, you know, that's the problem. Is it's been a chapter of accidents, hasn't it? And it's been terribly embarrassing for the British government because there was first talk about how there was a Navy ship very close by who could have picked up the pirates and they didn't. And it's a heck of a mess, isn't it? It's funny though, isn't it, that you know, we march into Iraq, we march into Afghanistan, and yet there are bits of the world that we just kind of forget about. It doesn't really matter what happens to them, even if it involves their own people. So they must feel terribly abandoned. I don't think the government
they are abandoned. I mean, I keep thinking, what if it was my parents?
Yes.
That's what I keep asking myself. Would I be thinking our country was doing enough to get them back? We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but on the surface of it, it appears not.
But I do also have to this to sound harsh, that there is some culpability on the part of the chance. Hang on. I love the idea. I'm desperate to have an adult gap year. I've never had a gap year. And the idea of sailing around the world, something that always appealed to me, it's slightly gone off the idea now.
So it's not that far off the coast of the Seychelles, and we'd like to think the Seychelles is a uber luxury holiday destination.
Yeah, I think if you're on a boat on your own, you have to know that it's not necessarily going to be Copacabana all the time you're out there. So I think they bear some of the blame for what's happened, but I think that the government shouldn't raise money, but they certainly shouldn't intervene if other people do.
Craig, should we intervene?
I think so, actually. I don't believe in paying a ransom. I think I don't understand why special services can't go in, you know, like in on Bond movies and stuff like that, go in and sort of try and get people back, you know, without having to pay ransom. Otherwise, you're just paying cash for actually nothing. Do
you think in paying for cash you make the problem worse? Because as we've heard from the numbers of people taken captive, I mean, it is a growing business for the Somalis.
Yeah, I think it's terrible. As soon as I think you set the precedent, don't you? As soon as you pay cash for some exchange like that, then it's going to continue because it's an easy dollar to make.
So shoot 'em up is preferable.
Well, I would say so. Yeah, go in with guns blazing and say, right, give us our citizens back. Or we'll shoot you.
It sounds quite naive, but I'm kind of with Craig, really.
I'm with him too.
So you are as well? You'd like...
The fear, of course, is that they would then be killed as well, but it would at least send a very clear message to Somalians, don't take British people.
Steve?
I think that I'm not sure that that particular remedy would work. of just go in, guns.
Kill them all.
Yeah.
Kill them all.
And we should
kill the pirates.
let's get Steven Seagal to go. Or,
you know, he works as a part-time copper.
Exactly, but, you know, why not? I've worked with a man, and he's an angry man, and you need an... I mean, you're right, it is a business. This is so much a business now that the Somali pirates actually, when they put in for their ransom demands, they put a breakdown of costings, how much it's costing them to keep these people captive. So, and they charge for mobile phone calls.
Satellite phones.
Satellite phone calls.
Very expensive.
Very expensive. But I mean, it's a temerity of the people. So it is extraordinary that a newspaper isn't kind of picking up the ball and running with this. This sniffs of the Daily Express, really. This could be a cause for a paper, and I think a cause that could be won.
It wasn't that long ago, by the way, they were running around rescuing donkeys in Fleet Street, you know, and that was a big campaign between the Sun and the Daily Star, rescuing Blackie the donkey.
But it's unlikely that that's ever going to really kick off if the donkey pirates, they're not very dangerous. No, really.
But Larry, you had a theory you were talking about just before we came on air, which is that
it's not a theory, it's the reality. It's the reality of the way the media works. We live in an ageist world. Were they 25... Well, let's say they were students on a gap year, so they say 18, 19, both attractive young people. Yes, they'd be on the front page far more than the fact that they're in their late 50s and he's 60s.
Or if they were Katie and Alex, then, you know, and they were kidnapped.
Don't bring in a true love story like that.
Wouldn't that be great if they were kidnapped by Somali pirates? That'd be a turn of events, wouldn't it?
Now, we're going to get on to them later, but I should remind you, I'd love to know what you think should happen to the childless, what we should be doing. Should we grease a few Somali palms? WriteStuff@5.tv is the address for your thoughts if you fancy pinging us an email. After the break, though, it's Steve with the rest of today's headlines, including the man jailed for dangerous driving, even though he was sitting in the passenger seat, and why baby brain is all in the mind. More after the break.
So according to today's Daily Mirror, a Tesco customer was asked for ID when she tried to buy a quiche.
Thank you very much. You're watching The Right Stuff with Craig Revel-Horwood, Larry Turner and Steve Furst. In a little while, make grown-up kids care for their ageing parents. So says a leading peer. Where does that leave the idea of taking personal responsibility for your own old age and not actually relying on anyone else? 0207 173 5555 is the number if you've got something to say. What's the point of a pension? Get your kids to pay for you. What else is making news, Steve? Claire Short, no?
Eventually.
Oh, OK.
Yeah. No, Claire Short, thank you. God, a slight panic there. It's always nice to go through these things before, but this is in the Daily Mail, the mood of the Daily Mail today being... this is about Claire Short and the ubiquitous inquiry into the Iraq War. And it's an interesting story. It's about her resignation. And we had a little debate before we were on air about the timing of her resignation. And that's what this is all about. That she did resign, but she didn't resign until after when she had her initial fears about it. She felt, because she was jeered at in the cabinet and so forth, so she alleges, that... it was a kind of scaremongering for her, really, that it took time for her to eventually take this stand and go, no. The interesting thing about this story is that what she's saying about...
She's extremely critical about everybody involved, and has been for some time, but always after the event. And that's the problem.
At least she did resign.
But Robin Cook went before the event.
Yes, but there aren't many people that went at all.
No.
And, I mean, they are a tiny, tiny minority. Robin Cook was the first one, and...
George Galloway and Tanda...
but she did go, and also it's what she says about Gordon Brown, who was obviously then the Chancellor, that he was very unhappy and marginalised.
Just like today, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that he'd been leaned on by Mr Blair. And she said
they're all sort of now deciding, now that Blair's no longer Prime Minister, they're painting a picture of Blair as this kind of demonic leader who had mind control over all. Hang on a second, they were all there, surely.
But then you've seen Derren Brown. It is possible to look that innocuous.
The one thing I will say for Claire Short is she added a little bit of fire and zest to what has otherwise been a fairly tedious procession of civil servants and politicos.
Yes, she's always been a great speaker. Anyway, the next story is in the Daily Telegraph. I think it's this is the one you led before the break, with this about a driver. Well, the driver was jailed, but it's her boyfriend, the millionaire businessman John Nichols, who was also jailed for dangerous driving, but he wasn't driving. Basically, because he didn't stop his missus or his girlfriend getting behind the wheel of his Jag, being over the limit. They were at a race meeting in Northampton, I think.
Isn't that rather dangerous precedent?
I think
Jailing
it's
somebody
hugely-
who's not actually driving a car
Well, it
for
is,
dangerous
especially
driving.
if you yourself are over the limit as well,
Yeah.
that you're not obviously of completely clear right-mindedness. I just think there is it is a dangerous precedent. We all try to stop people, and I'm sure we all have, who have had a few too many getting in a car or getting behind the wheel, and sometimes been successful and other times not. I'd hate to think that just because you'd got in a car with someone who had had a few too many, that you'd be jailed.
Yeah.
But maybe it will stop people getting in the car.
But the whole point is, if you go out on the lash, let's face it, race meetings are really sober events. If you go out on the lash, and the plan is that you have, say, a nominated driver that's going to take you home, then surely the whole point of the nominated driver
So they
system
don't drink.
is that they don't drink so that you can, so you don't have to take
Or
any
if
kind
you're
of
a
responsibility.
millionaire businessman, then book a blooming cab.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the madness of it. It's why go to a race meeting in your own car?
Yeah, exactly. Or just ride a horse home. I mean, that's what they're there for.